Hi, this is Jennifer from DecorSauce, and today I'm going to show you how to totally rejuvenate a bathroom floor using nothing but paint. Here is the offending vinyl. As you can see, it is a lovely buttercream and brown color, and it just needs updated. And sorry about my cabinet there, it's an overlapping project with the next one, but here is the before. Okay, so as you can see, I have the vinyl floor behind me, and the first thing you're going to want to do is determine whether or not it's too glossy for you to put paint directly on it. In my case, it's not really glossy. It has sort of a natural rough finish. If your vinyl is really glossy, then you're gonna need to use some sandpaper on it first. I think what works the best is an orbital sander or some other mechanical sander. That way you're not spending all day on your hands and knees. So give it a quick rough up with a sander if you need to, and then after that, we use a cleaning product. So for this floor, I'm going to be using a TSP substitute. You mix 8 ounces of this with about a gallon of water, and then get on your hands and knees, folks, and scrub it really good, because you're going to want to get all the natural oils and hair and everything off the floor so that your paint can really stick to it. Before I go ahead and get started, I just wanted to also mention the fact that my vinyl, even though it's ugly, it's in really good shape. So this project is only going to work on vinyl that doesn't have any natural dings or cracks in it. If you do, there are products where you can glue down flaps of busted vinyl, but in this case, I wouldn't use the paint on a floor that needed any kind of repair. This only works really well and looks really fabulous if your floor is flawless besides the ugly color. Okay, so besides the TSP substitute, the product I'm going to use today on this floor is, first of all, I'm going to use a bin cover stain primer, an oil-based paint, and it smells really nasty, folks, but it works really well. The only thing to note is it goes on really thin, so you want to be careful when you apply it that you don't do a lot of over dripping. In this case, I've already done all the walls. I'm working on the cabinet as we speak, and then my next thing is the floor. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this cover stain primer, and I'm going to use just a cheap paintbrush like this one to apply it around the edges, or cut around the edges, and then I'm going to roll it on with a regular old roller. The reason I'm using a cheapy brush is because I don't particularly like to clean oil-based paint out of my brushes, because it's kind of a mess. So I'd rather just use a cheap paintbrush for cutting projects like this, and then I can just toss it when I'm done. Okay, now that I've cut out the whole perimeter of the room with my cheap paintbrush, I'm going to just dump the paint right on the floor and roll out the rest. I'm going to make sure that I put my cheap paintbrush in a baggie and put the baggie in the fridge. That way the paint will last through any touch-ups that I might need to do later. And then after it's all done, I'm just going to throw this paintbrush away. I'm going to show you what it looks like to roll. Also going to make sure that I roll my way outside of the room. Okay, so I'm all done adding my first coat of primer, actually the only coat of primer I'm going to put on this floor. And the can of the cover stain says to let it dry for about 30 minutes before you can add your top coat. Since it's the floor, I'm going to let it dry a little bit longer, probably at least 24 hours, just to make sure that it's not tacky, because I have to walk on it in order to add that top coat of paint. So what I'm going to have to do next is I will have to cut around like I did with the coat of primer with the paint, and then I can roll it on, just dumping the paint right onto the floor from the can. It's pretty simple because it doesn't require a lot of extra supplies. So So at this point, while you're waiting for your floor to dry, you might be tempted to get out a fan and blow a fan of air onto this floor. And I just have to warn you against it because I did that myself and I ended up blowing a bunch of dirt and hair and things like that on my freshly painted floor. So if you must do that and there's no way around it for you, you just make sure the area around your freshly painted floor is just as clean as the floor was before you painted it, or else it's just a big mess. So just fair warning, just let it dry until it's ready on its own. Hi friends, so I've let the paint or the primer dry on the bathroom floor for about 24 hours, and now it's dry enough for me to walk on, for me to do my final coat, my only coat of paint that I'm gonna have to do on the floor. So I've already cut out the edges, and I'm using Valspar Porch and Floor. It's an oil-based paint. It's really, really nasty, you guys. So I'm using a respirator so I don't have to breathe it so much of the chemicals, and I would suggest you do the same. I cut it around all the edges in the toilet and bathtub and stuff with the same cheapy paintbrush that I used yesterday. I stored it in the refrigerator overnight in a plastic baggie so that the paint would not dry on it, and then I just dipped the same paintbrush in this new paint. The reason I can get away with that is because I used an oil-based primer on the floor first, and now I'm using an oil-based paint over the top. So there's going to be no confliction of chemicals when it comes to oil-based versus water-based. So only use the same paintbrush without cleaning it if you're going to go from oil to oil or water-based to water-based. The instructions on the paint can say that I only need to let it dry for about 24 hours before you can lightly walk on it, and about 48 hours for normal use. So this product is gonna dry really fast, guys, and we're gonna be able to use this bathroom in 2 days. So now I'm going to just show you how I roll it out since I've already cut around the edges, and you'll see how quickly it goes. Day 2 after I laid my first coat of paint on the bathroom floor, which was to be my final coat of paint. But one of the great things that, or one of the great advantages that you guys have of watching me do this on camera is that you can learn from my mistakes and hopefully not make them. So after I laid my paint, and even while it was drying, I knew that I had made a big error in not properly preparing my roller sponge for the floor, and by preparing it I mean de-linting it. Now I could have bought a more expensive roller. I wasn't really thinking about it at the time, but I cheaped out, and so what I got was a roller full of lint. So when I laid my paint down on the floor with the other roller, I laid down a bunch of lint from the roller itself into the paint. And when you're painting a floor, that's a big no-no because you can feel every little grit underneath your feet and you know it's not a proper job. So what I had to do is I had to mitigate that issue by using my trusty orbital sander here and sanding all the little bits of lint out of the dried first coat of paint. And then I had to clean it again really well with vacuum and sweeping and water and towel dry it just to make sure all the little bits of fuzz and dust from sanding it were gone. So I ended up causing myself about an extra hour's worth of work on this project that should have been done. So hopefully you learned from me and you don't make the same mistakes. So what I've done to prepare this roller is I've coated it. First of all, I vacuumed it I rubbed it really good to try to get the fuzz off. Then I vacuumed it with the vacuum cleaner, and now I've got it all taped up with frog tape so that when I pull off these little layers, hopefully I pull off all the lint with it. And really that's the best I can do. I can't really do anything more than that to prepare this floor. So I've done a floor before. I knew that I did this before, and my project turned out beautifully. So I just forgot to do the step this time, and so I'm paying for it now. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead, and as I peel this tape off, I'm just going to make sure I get all of the lint off of this roller, and then I'll have to lay another coat of paint. So this is what the floor looks like with its coat of paint on it. As you can see, it looks really good. It hid the decorative pattern a little better than I thought it was going to, so that's good news. And now all I have to do is wait for it to dry, which takes about 24 hours, and then I'll show you what the bathroom looks like when it's finished and all put together. So that concludes my video tutorial on how to update your vinyl flooring with nothing but paint in one weekend. I really hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for going on this journey with me, even though I screw up on camera and have to fix it. I appreciate you not judging me too harshly, and I hope that my mistakes can help you to not make them when you go do your own DIY project. If you'd like more helpful tips, I also have a website at DecorSauce.com that's got many more projects and ideas for you on there. If this video is helpful to you, I would really appreciate it if you would like or subscribe, and that way I can keep bringing more content to you. Thank you so much, and happy DIY.